What is up, y'all? We are back. We are here for episode 2 of Big Brother season 27. Showergate. Showergate, Showergate, Showergate. I got thoughts. Make sure to thumbs up the video, y'all. Do that. Y'all killed it with the last one. Let's try and get to 100. Let's try and get to 100 this time. Shout out to y'all for showing love, sharing the videos, being down there in the comments. I'm going to be here all season. So share the video, subscribe if you are new. Let's do that. We are on the road to 15K. But yeah, we got a lot to talk about. This is a good second episode. We had a lot of shit going on, and I got some thoughts. So I'm not going to waste too much time. Let's go ahead and get on to it now. All right, so we get back to where everybody's pretty much tripping out about the whole accomplice stuff. So they're still trying to figure out who it is and what's going on. And not only are they trying to figure that out, they also have Rachel Riley in the house as well. So it's like we got an accomplice and we got somebody who has won the show and we know is a comp B. So we got a lot of shit going on right now. But Vinny, whichever one you want to use, because they've been using both names, he's been talking about how he doesn't need the added pressure of that in the house as well. But Rachel, she then tells Amy that she's not the accomplice, which we know she's not lying, and Amy knows she's not lying too, but we'll get to that in a minute. But Rachel then tries to sleuth everybody out at this point. She's trying to ask them questions and whatever, and she ends up asking like who noticed that the relic was missing first. And Will cops to it and says that he did, and he realizes that he shouldn't have even copped to it. But Amy, she's already asking about Will being the accomplice, even though we'll get to it. But Mickey, she's noticing that Ava was pulling people into rooms. Everybody's suspicious of everybody. They're starting to pull out certain things about everybody that they've noticed to kind of, I guess, get some heat on them to try and figure it out. So that happens with Ava. Mickey's noticing that. Ashley and Morgan think that it's Keanu because he's always sitting on the end of the couch. Riley's telling Kelly, Adrian, and Vince that Zay's face turned beet red. So it's a lot of stuff going on. Zay's telling a group of people that Riley is suspicious because he was sprinting around the house trying to go use the bathroom. Like I said, everybody is sussing everybody out at this point. Riley ends up going into that same room after Zay left and tells that group that he's suspicious of Zay. It's just a lot of like, okay, this person, that person, this person, that person. It's funny. So we see Kelly asking Jimmy who didn't want to compete whenever you were making the decision on the 4 people to nominate to play in the house in the HOH competition. And Jimmy ends up stating Zay did want, and she's asking between Zay and Riley. And he was like, Zay wanted to compete. So at that point, they decided to lay off of Zay. So Jimmy and Morgan, they think that it could be Riley, and Rachel thinks that it still could be Zay. But Lauren is telling Mickey that she's a girl. She thinks it's a girl. And she says there might be something to the 8 girls, 8 guys situation. And Mickey's like, is Riley a little bit too obvious to really choose? Him running around going to the bathroom, it seems like it's a little too obvious, and it is. And Lauren agrees. But Keanu, Zach, and Kelly, they're in the DR talking about how they think it's Riley. So everybody's kind of giving their observations and who they think it is in the DR as we're having these conversations. But Lauren is telling Ava that she thinks the accomplice is a girl as well, which she's not wrong, but she just don't know yet. But she then tells the DR that it's got to be somebody that they're not thinking about, and I said, exactly, it is. But I don't know if they're good to it, but we'll see. But we got to it. But the mastermind has the house guests all come gather in the living room, and he then tells them that the votes have been tallied. So everybody voted. Everybody got to vote except for the accomplice. So it was 16 votes. And 5 of those 16 votes voted Zay as the accomplice. The other 11 thought it was Riley. So that's their official guess, which is Riley. The majority rules. So he says if the accomplice gets it correct, if they guess the accomplice will leave, and it'll no longer be 17 people playing. But obviously, he reveals that Riley is not the accomplice, and they failed the mission. And everybody's sitting there looking deflated, and now they know that it's going to be 17 of them competing this season. He then lets them know that the accomplice accomplished their mission, and they will be in the game, and their identity will still be hidden. So they won't know. I guess I want to see if the accomplice, we'll get to who it is. The accomplice, I want to see if they're going to actually reveal to somebody if they were in fact the accomplice, or go the entire season without revealing it. What would y'all do? If I was the accomplice, I wouldn't state I was the accomplice. There's no point in doing that because if you were to state it, it makes you look extra gamey. Like it makes you look like a true gamer because you pulled it over on everybody. So you should keep that to yourself. I feel like the accomplice will not do it considering who it is, but we'll see. I don't know. But Riley then starts talking about how if they would have listened to him, they would have gotten the accomplice. No, they wouldn't have, because you was wrong too. It was not Zay. But we find out that the accomplice is Amy. And I said, that's a good one, because I would have never thought it was her. I would have never thought it was her. But they show us a flashback of her pretty much accomplishing and executing her missions. The first one, when she came in the house, everybody was walking around looking around. She hit the lever to turn the timer on. And once that finished, that's when the lights went off. She had a little switch where she could she could hit the button to go ahead and drop the relic. So she was literally executing everything so smoothly, and I was shocked. I was very impressed. But she had all of that going on, and she did it without really being sussed out at all. But Rachel goes to get the champagne glasses. It's time for everybody to introduce themselves. Rachel starts it off. We all know who she is. They know who she is. There's no need to introduce yourself, Rachel. But Vince ends up talking about how she didn't need an intro. But Jimmy, which they're kind of setting up their eventual beef, because Jimmy knows Rachel is a threat. He doesn't want her there. It's clear he doesn't want her there. But we'll see. Jimmy's a good game player. I feel like he's going to be one of those game players that is going to stick out this season. We'll see if he plays too hard, or if he ends up playing it right. It could go either way with him, because he seems like he's one of those gamers so far this season that you're going to put in the front in terms of who's really running the game. But Keanu wants to work with Adrian. Amy wants to hook Zach up with one of the girls. I said this is strategy on her end, because she knows showmances typically put a target on your back. In the recent seasons, they haven't for some reason, but in the vintage seasons, you get attached to somebody, they're going to get you out, which, I mean, I would. But the boys, they're all eyeing Lauren. Ashley lied about her career, as did Jimmy. Morgan lies about hers as well. Adrian seemingly is crushing on Morgan. That's just what I got. Like I said, Jimmy lied about his. Rachel's just sizing everybody up at this point. So they cheers to the season. Everybody's now mingling. And Vince comes in and has everybody come to the living room because he has another message. And it's from the Hotel Mystere management. Rachel's room is the have-not room. Finally, they brought the have-nots back. So she's already on slot, but it comes with an incentive. Her mouth was already on the floor because she don't want to be a have-not. But 3 other house guests will be joining her in the have-not room. And with you being a have-not, you're going to be safe for the week. You're not going to be able to be nominated. You're not going to be evicted. So me personally, I would nominate myself. Why not get the have-not experience out of the way already, and then know that you're going to be safe? Like, that's the time to do it. But Jimmy's obviously pissed because he knows that Rachel's already safe. Like, he can't even try and get her out right now. But even if he wants to, he's going to start trying to plant those seeds, as he should. But Rachel, this is how it's going to work, though. Rachel's going to pick the first one, and then the next have-not that she picks will continue that until we get to 4. So Rachel starts off and says she wants to be strategic, and she wants to choose somebody that pretty much she has in her back pocket that she thinks she does. And she chooses Will because he stated that he is her super fan. Will gets up there and chooses Zach. He wants to do that because based off of their sports connection, he wants to establish trust, which I was like, okay, so the first end curse is not going to work this season. But Zach, he wants to get to know Lauren, obviously, because he wants to showman's her. And he also sees Ava sitting over there looking like a puppy dog. So he made a smart decision. I thought this was smart. He could have easily went with Lauren, and most people probably would have been like, oh, you have a crush on her because it just looks like they should be together on paper. Him choosing Ava is smart for his game because, like he said, you don't really see the two of them actually aligning together. And this could build some trust with Ava. But she stated she don't even know why he even chose her, but she's chosen. So they're the first have-nots for the week. They're safe, like I stated. They go and check out the have-not room. That bed looks so uncomfortable. It looks hard. It's pretty much like a shape of somebody's body. Like, you know how like with the the crime scenes and stuff, that's pretty much what it is. It looked hard, didn't look comfortable, but you got to do what you got to do with $750,000 on the line. All right, so we get the next scene where we got Jimmy, who is pretty much talking about how Rachel has safety, but that's still not going to stop me. I'm going to start planting these seeds because I'm still gunning for her. So he goes up with Mickey and Morgan, which we later find out this is a trio. He goes upstairs with them and starts planting those seeds. And Morgan pretty much tells them that she didn't want to win the HOH. I didn't want to win HOH because I didn't want to put people up at this point. Like, it's too early. Obviously, who wouldn't want to? Who would want to do that this early in the game? Some people would. Me personally, I wouldn't. Like, the first HOH, I'm not trying to win that. I'm trying to I'm trying to work my social game first. That's what I want to do. I would want to work my social game before I get power, truthfully. But Jimmy then asked like if they feel like Rachel was served to them on a platter. Basically, do we get her out now, or what are y'all thinking? And Morgan was like, I mean, I feel like she could be helpful, which is what I stated in the first one. I feel like I wouldn't get Rachel out immediately because, like I said, that's a shield. You already know she's coming in with a target. Like, keep her in the game just in case some heat gets on you. You can start throwing it her way. But she was like, I feel like she could be helpful for us. Ava ends up coming up there as they're talking, and they ask of her opinion. And she's like, I mean, it's scary with her being in the game, period. But Jimmy is pushing this racial threat level, which, I mean, I get it. But Morgan then says, like, you have somebody in here who could essentially guide you, but essentially it's at the point where it's like, how long do we keep her here, even though she could be helping us in the game? But Jimmy then says if she stays any longer and stays super long, we know she can win. She's already done it before, and she is a competition beast, so we playing with fire, keeping her in the game. But Morgan then tells us in the DR that she wants to learn from Rachel, and she says, I mean, it could be best for both of our games to align with her. That is true. But we then see Will. He's talking to Rachel about how much of a fan he is of her, and Rachel ends up asking who his favorite players are, and he says Dan, one of my favorites, absolutely. Will, Dr. Will was one of my favorites, and then he says Rachel. Rachel being Rachel, she's like, I mean, are you really my... Well, she didn't state this to him, but she stated it to us in the DR. Is he really my number one fan since he didn't mention my name first? I'm like, Rachel, please. But Zach is in there as well, and he seemingly didn't know anything about Brendan and Rachel. So she then starts telling them about how she first met him and how their first season was, yada, yada, yada. And Zach says he's here for the money, but to hear Rachel pretty much tell him that he could find love and win the money, it makes him want to do it. I said, sir, that does not always happen. Just because it didn't even happen for Rachel. Rachel's first season, she found Brendan, but she didn't win. She got out literally halfway throughout the season. She came back and won. But it's not guaranteed. I wouldn't be trying to do that. But Rachel then talks about how it's her first time being in the house without Brendan, which I just realized in the moment, yeah, that is true. Because season 12, even though she lasted the latter part of season 13 without Brendan, but Brendan was in the jury house, but this is actually her first full season without him. So yeah, that is true. But Zach, he ends up getting called to the DR, to the downstairs DR. And he goes in there and he has a message, and they're pretty much congratulating him on the $10,000. But he is told, because I was upset at first. I was like, I wouldn't want that $10,000. With this, I would. But he says that it can be used to buy his safety in the game. Anytime before jury. He has to use it before jury if he wants to. If he's on the block after the veto meeting, he can use that $10,000 to buy his safety. Take himself off the block, giving the HOH the $10,000, and you have to force it to him. This is not a two-way transaction. Like, I can offer you this and you can deny it. No. If I offer this to you, you got to take this shit, and then you got to put somebody else up in my spot. Love it. I love it. I would love it. And if he doesn't do it, he can keep the $10,000. Me personally, yes, you want to leave the show with $10,000, but I wouldn't want that over my head. Like, having $10,000, I don't want that over my head because they already know that he got the $10,000. So I personally would be looking for the right opportunity to do it. But if I did have such a strong social game to where I never ended up on the block, I mean, you got $10,000, I guess. But Jimmy, Morgan, and Mickey, they're in the bathroom, and they pretty much established their trio. Jimmy feels like he has Vince in his back pocket, which he does. And they're talking about nominees and whatever. And yeah, like I said, they lock in on an alliance that they call the Triple Threat. This seemingly, though, I do want to mention, Jimmy mentions how he really bonded with Morgan, and Morgan being cool with Mickey. He also likes Mickey, but you could tell this is association, which I feel like later on in the game could be something to pay attention to. I feel like he's more close to Morgan, and I feel like if he would cut one of the three, it would be Mickey. So Mickey, keep working that social game. But Benny, he comes in the room, who wants to see my HOA true? And it's funny because y'all know who makes that voice and sounds like that stating it. Rachel Riley, she's in the house. So they go up to the HOH room. It looks like a hotel suite. It's very well decorated. Benny offers, and I want to make this a point, anybody can use this shower. He didn't put a time limit on it. Anybody can use this shower. Remember that. So we then get a scene of Rachel and Amy bonding. I saw these two, like in my mind, I was like, these two are definitely going to connect. Amy feels like she can trust Rachel. and she proposes it's pretty much a deal. And Rachel's like, I like you. We're on the same vibe. We got the same energy. And they create a mom's alliance. Rachel then starts asking her, are you good at competitions? I said, Rachel, how will she know? They've only had one competition. Like, what? But they start talking about how Zach, Zay, and Keanu are going to be pretty much big threats based off of their physique alone. And they obviously start strategizing about the youthful ones in the house too. And Rachel's like, yeah, the young ones, they're going to start being horny and start thinking about that and get distracted. I said, you would know, because your first season, that was you. The only difference is you actually knew how to win competitions. Yes, every other week you was on the block. When you wasn't winning, you was on the block. But that's essentially what Rachel did too, so it was funny. We then moved to shower game. Ashley is upstairs in the HOH room with Vinny. She's in there taking a shower. And he's sitting in there, he's clearly getting annoyed because she's been in there for a while. But everybody's noticing that she's been upstairs for a while. They're like, where is Ashley at? Where is she at? She in there showering down. Me personally, I take about a 30-minute shower myself. So I was laughing. I was laughing. But they're like, she been in there for an hour. Morgan's down there telling a group of people downstairs that he just got that room. He can't even sleep. She's up there still in the shower. So they're making an issue out of this. We all know one little thing can blow up in the Big Brother house. Like any little thing that you can use to put a target on somebody, they're going to do it. So Jimmy then says that that's the shit that'll get you put up. So Ashley eventually comes downstairs talking about, I just took the best shower ever. I was dying laughing. But Jimmy's talking about, so yeah, we believe you. Like, we know, y'all, you've been up there for like 2 hours at this point. But Catherine then asked if Vinny has even showered before Ashley did. And Ashley's like, what did you say? And she was like, did he shower before you? And Ashley was like, no, he didn't. Catherine says, oh. I say, here we go. She then gets in her DR and says it's rude, but I don't really care, but it's rude. I'm like, is it really? Because Vinny literally offered it to her. If he didn't get in the shower first, that's on him. If he told her that she can come up there and shower, she came up there and showered. Like, if he had an issue with it, he can use his mouth and say, let me do it first. Because I'm pretty sure if he would have done that, she would have allowed him to do that. But the next day, everybody's still talking about Showergate. They're talking about Ashley, and you can tell this is painting a target on Ashley and talking about how she took a 2-hour shower. They're sitting there talking about this is the first reason that somebody could literally put somebody up. Amy, shout out to Amy, she loves Ashley. She can't stand that everybody's sitting here still talking about this shit, making a big deal about her wanting to go take a shower. I said, clock the shit. But she goes and tells Ashley. I said, you real for that. So Ashley says, I'm over it at this point. I just want to squash it. So she goes to go talk to Catherine. And she was like, are you bothered about me taking a shower? I was dying laughing. I said, go to the source. But Catherine says, no, why? Ashley says, I mean, I guess people took your question to me in front of everybody and ran with the shit because you did ask me in front of everybody, like she did. But Ashley says in her DR, I'm pissed because this is putting a target on my back at this point, and it is. But Ashley says, I mean, he offered everybody to take a shower up there. Why would I not take it? Why would she not? Like, why would she not? Would she want to go take a shower in the public shower where everybody else is in the bathroom potentially while she's taking a shower? Or does she want to go to the one upstairs that is private? I would go to the one upstairs. I don't see an issue. But she says that I just don't want it to be a thing at this point. Catherine then gets in her DR, and you can tell they're setting them up. And Catherine gets in her DR and says that she didn't care, but why are you trying to instill fear in me that people are pretty much seeing that I'm easily annoyed? That's not what she's doing. She came to the source because you the one that asked her the question. Like, they all was sitting down there talking about it, but you the one that went to her and asked her the question in front of everybody. So if you want to keep it real, you're the one that started it because everybody was in the room and now everybody's talking about it. You're the one that asked the question. Yes, they were sitting there talking about it and speculating, but you're the one that directly asked her in front of everybody. So yeah, you put a target on me, I'm going to put it back on you. Like, that's basically what it is. But Will, he's with the girls while Zach, Zay, and Keanu are working out. He's talking about how when he was younger, he would have done the same thing, but them boys over there putting a target on their back, sitting there lifting them heavy weights. I would be in there lifting weights too, because y'all know, if you don't know, I'm a personal trainer. I live in the gym. But Benny, he's upstairs in the HOH room. No, he's in the bathroom talking to Jimmy about how he wants the HOH to be just like private conversations and stuff. So he starts talking about how he wants to play with Jimmy and wants to pretty much have him put his input in on the 3 nominees that he should nominate. So Vinny is sitting there wondering if he should even still try and figure out the accomplice conversation. Is that a point where we should kind of start with trying to figure out who to nominate? Should we still be on this accomplice shit? I think you should, honestly, considering the fact that they're still there. I would. But Jimmy then says that he sees the two of them, him and Vinny, working together, and he wants to pretty much build foundations based off of actions and not words. And he feels like Vinny is the same way. So Jimmy feels that he can influence his nominations, and I do believe that he can. I feel like Jimmy has a pretty good social game. I feel like a lot of people in that house probably trust him, and I feel like he knows what he's doing. It could just go bad if he plays too hard. Like you can tell he's a leader. You just can't be too forceful, because some people are gonna pay attention to that and see that you in here spearheading a lot of shit. But we'll see how he navigates. But Jimmy then states that he can influence his nominations. But Vinny then says that he agrees that how they all agreed. Him, Jimmy, Adrian, and Ashley agreed that they were off the table. And they flash back to their conversation before the HOH. But Jimmy then says that everybody is going to give you safety, like a safety guarantee. Like, everybody's going to tell you that you're going to be safe, but at this point, we need to go with what happened prior. That's basically what I was getting from it. But he's like, it's up to you on who you trust. But Benny then says that he wants to hear everybody's thoughts and see if they come to a commonality with one particular name, which they later do. But Jimmy then pushes Zay. He wants Zay on that block. Rightfully so. I would want him up there too. But he says based off of like the big buff alliances that happened in the previous seasons. And Jimmy then pushes that. Zay then comes walking in as he's pushing it. And Jimmy immediately, clockwork, shifted and pivoted that conversation. I'd have been paying attention if I was Vinny. I'd have been like, you can quickly move like that? Okay, I'm looking at you. I would have been like, his threat level is high for me. But we then move to Vince and Kelly, who is Vinny. Like I said, they keep going Vince, Vinny, Vince, Vinny. And I've been writing Vince, Vinny, Vince, Vinny. But they're having a conversation. They both feel good about each other. They want to work together. They lock in on a final two deal already. We got the first final two deal of the season. And she pretty much tells him, like, I slept on it and it just kept being in my mind that I want you to throw me up and put me up. I said, what? What is wrong with you? Never do that. Never do that. And he's like, why? And she was like, I mean, to get people essentially off of us potentially working together. You putting me up will get the scent off of us even working together, even if people were even suspicious of it. But she then says that she wants to do something different. I said, not at your own expense. Do something different at somebody else's expense. But Benny is obviously liking the idea because it will get blood off of him. He would put somebody up that he already knows wouldn't be upset with him. But he doesn't want to put her up as well because that's his ally. But we could then get a scene of Vinny and Zay. They're upstairs in the HOH room having a conversation. And Zay's pretty much talking about the Ashley shower shit. And Benny's like, I just don't want to go back on my word because I pretty much told her that I wouldn't put her up. But Benny then says, like, if somebody wants to compete in the HOH, he will be curious, not the HOH. If anybody wants to compete in the veto, he will be curious to know who they would want to go up against. And Zay's sitting there pushing Ashley because he feels like he can beat her, obviously. Benny then has Keanu up in the HOH room. Like, everybody is starting to push Ashley, which is pissing me off. But everybody's starting to push her about the shower shit. She comes running in, ringing the doorbell. And Benny, she asked to talk to Benny. And Benny's like, okay, well, I'm having conversations with everybody right now. I'll get to you as well. So she then leaves. And he's having these conversations with everybody but Ashley. Ashley, obviously, over time is going to notice that. So she keeps coming back up there. And he's sitting up there acting like she's being paranoid for no reason. I'm like, you literally told her that you would have a conversation with her, but you're literally having conversations with everybody else about her except for her. So it gets to the point where she's up because everybody's literally throwing her name around. He's starting to buy into it too. But she comes up there again when he's up there with Catherine. And she's trying to talk, obviously. And he's still stalling her out. And then she ends up walking away. And he's telling Catherine, like, what did he say? He said that hold on. And he's talking about how she keeps coming in here interrupting other people's conversations. I'm like, you literally told her that you would talk to her and you still haven't talked to her. Why would she not keep coming up there? Like, what do you mean? But Ashley comes back up again and he finally lets her in because she's like, I'm tired. Like, I just want to talk to you with a cohesive mind. But Catherine gets up and leaves and she comes in and tells him, like, Zach pretty much tipped me off that people are coming up here pushing my name around and it freaked me out. So she then tells him that she sees him, talking about Vinny, as an ally, and I did before you won HOH. And she's like, at this point, of course people are going to come up here and kiss your ass and tell you everything that they want to tell you, but I at least at least showed you that I actually want to work with you before you even had power, which is true. But Benny then says that he feels like she doesn't want to work with him because he feels that they got in her head and she spiraled with paranoia, and he doesn't want her to spiral. And he then says that he doesn't want somebody who trusts him to get paranoid. I said, so if that's the case, why didn't you have a conversation with her when she came up there? Why were you continuing to have conversations with everybody else but her about her? Why would she not be paranoid? Why? Especially when everybody else is running around talking about how she is literally the one being pushed. Like, be for real. Like, he's sitting there gaslighting her. But he then tries to downplay his role in her paranoia. But then he tries to tell us that he doesn't feel like she trusts him. Why the fuck would she? Why would she? Like, you've literally shown through your actions that she shouldn't trust you. But Benny and Amy, they have a conversation and she's asking, like, what is your main goal? Like, what is your target? And he states that he wants to get out a big thread. No, he doesn't. No, he doesn't. But he then says that Zay and Ashley are his potentials. And he then says that her name, Ashley's name, has come out a lot and has been the most common name. And Amy obviously don't like that. She don't like that. She said that makes me sad because I like her, but I just don't understand how this shower shit is the reason as to why she's being put up, or at least been thrown out. And Amy then says that she wants to have Ashley's back. And I'm like, at this point, telling him that is not a good move. But, I mean, I get it. But Benny then says that it makes me wonder because, like, I never knew y'all were really friends like that. And Amy then says, like, the Showergate shit is the stupidest shit ever. And it is. It's stupid. But in the game of Big Brother, I mean, we all know any little thing can be used against you. But Amy then tells him that there are bigger fish to fry, which she's not lying. It's the truth. And she's like, this is an easy move. But she then starts crying. I said, Amy, pull it together. Pull it together. Because her crying over somebody else is not a good look. Because it's like, are y'all really that locked in already? But she's crying and Benny's noticing that. And he's thinking, okay, at this point, it's clear that they're really, really like this. If I'm going to do something to get some heat off of me, why not just put both of them up? Because they're both going to be mad at me regardless. So whatever, I would much rather have them mad at me, knowing that the rest of the house want Ashley out already. Amy is Amy. Like, she's literally a pawn in this situation. But we get to the nominations. And of course, he chooses Zay, Amy, and Ashley. His reasoning for putting Zay up, he says, you're a wild card, and I just feel like you'll understand. Okay. Amy is a pawn. Now, Ashley's, his pissed me off. Sitting there talking about something, this has nothing to do with the shower. It does. And then he says, like, your words don't match your actions. What are you talking about? Your words don't match your actions. But he then says that she's the most paranoid person in the house and he doesn't know why. What you mean you don't know why? What you mean you don't know why? Be for real. Be for real. But that was the episode, y'all. We got the veto on Wednesday, which we know veto ceremony episodes are 90 minutes. This was also 90 minutes. But that'll be 90 minutes. I'm going to drop that one on Wednesday night. That one should go live on time. I'm thinking about it. Yeah, that one's going to go live on time. So I'll see y'all then. Thumbs up the video if you haven't already. Get in the comments. Let me know what y'all thought about this episode. The live feeds. I already know what happened with the veto. I'm not going to spoil y'all, but I'm happy. But I'm not going to spoil y'all. We'll get to it in the end on Wednesday. But yeah, I'll see y'all then. Peace.